everybody. Welcome to InPsightRadio. I am your host, Danielle Egnew, and you are a fly on the wall to everywhere. How are ya? Welcome to part 2 of our 2021 Year of Birth podcast. Our last podcast laid the foundation of what was going to be necessary for everything that we need to be able to put into play to maximize 2021's year of birth. And a lot of that ground laying had to be done in 2020. It had to be done this year. And so as we come on to part 2 of this podcast, this is somewhat of the fun part, so to speak. The last part 1 podcast was a bit heavy, yet it's really necessary that we cover all of these steps so that we can all experience extreme success in 2021's year of birth. It's kind of a big deal. You're kind of a big deal. So here we are, and we're launching out into what generally is a predictive forum that's live. I mean, it's usually sold out months in advance. It's a the predictive forum for the next year is a live forum, and I get to channel all of these messages and take questions about what's going on in the year to come. And obviously this year with COVID-19, we don't actually have those same opportunities really in terms of being able to have live events. So I've chosen to put it all in a podcast this year, the predictive forum of what we have a chance to look forward to in 2021. What are we looking at in the future? What's the world going to look like? Well, the first and foremost, that I've gotten the most questions about as I look into 2021. And today's unofficial guest on the show is the angel that walks with the world. Though this angel, I wish I could just give it a mic and let it take off on you. Yet I will be the official interpreter for this angel today. And what this angel's been showing me is obviously more COVID rodeos. Now I know it. Nobody wants to hear that right now. Nobody wants to hear that. We don't want to hear that there's more COVID. Yet even though we do have the vaccine, and we'll get to the vaccine in just a minute, COVID-19 is still raging around. We currently have one mutated form of it that's sprung up in the UK. And it's likely that we're going to get another mutated form of it before we get another vaccine going here. Yet it's probably going to be at least June of 2021 before we really get somewhat of a handle on the COVID issue, even though we're still getting vaccinated, because you have to remember that not everybody has access to this vaccine. So it's not like the world is suddenly going immune. It's going to be a process. So I'm looking at June, and I'm looking at all the COVID weirdness, and I think people are starting to settle in with just the reality that, you put your mask on, you go in the business, you wash your hands, you don't touch your face, you have your hand sanitizer. I mean, we've been doing this for a year, over a year, when it comes up to the time frame to actually not have to worry about this anymore. So again, we really are looking at June to August in that time frame. And we are looking at more inoculations. So if you can just look at 2021 as a cleanup period for COVID-19, rather than, okay, we're in COVID free zone, we're in 2021, that will probably be a little more healthy. Now, you got to remember, I'm speaking in terms of the United States, okay? Because there's other parts of the world, New Zealand, where there is no COVID. There are other countries where the COVID-19 virus has not completely taken off like a swarm of rabid bees going across the lands. We've had a great deal of airline traffic over this holiday season, over this Christmas season. And we're going to see an uptick in numbers, of course, in January because of that. Yet we're also going to see people getting vaccinated. So it's kind of balancing itself out. Yet regrettably, our COVID deaths are going to continue, and they're going to continue into next year. Now, obviously, as people are getting inoculated for this, that's going to scale back. But just don't think that we're going to get into 2021 and this is all going to go away. I really wish that were true, and I hope I'm wrong about this, and I would love to receive your grumpy mail of, you know what, we were done with this by March and you said June, you suck. Send me those emails if we're done by March, because I will be thrilled to receive them. So yeah, the COVID thing is pretty crazy. The second strain, as I was looking into this through the angel who walks with the world, the second strain of COVID, it's a little different. It's a little wiggly. It looks like sometimes it's going to be affected by the vaccine and other times it's not. Yet it depends on the person. And the COVID vaccine is another thing. For the most part, what I'm seeing here is that this vaccine is pretty darn safe. Now, I am seeing segments of the population experience severe allergies. I am seeing some very rare cases as we go along here that may result in really, really serious illness. I'm hoping not death in the one case of this particular serious illness that I'm seeing that has to do with some organ failure. Yet that's an individual that's particularly sensitive to the effects of this virus. Mostly it's just inflammation and swelling that I'm seeing in people's arms and whatnot. And, it's not like I was running or am running right now out to get the COVID vaccine. I'm not running out to get it right now. I'm not in the highest risk group ever. And I do think that if people are going to get the vaccine, it should be people who are working with the public out there. That being said, I was somebody whose eyebrow was raised quite high, going, oh my God, that thing just got rushed through the pike. I'm not sure I'm really prepared to take that because we don't know the long range effects of it and all these things. And one of the things that was brought to my attention by a medical professional when I was voicing some of my concerns about the COVID vaccine, and I am not an anti-vaxxer. I believe in vaccinating. I really do. Yet I was a little concerned with how fast we came up with this. It took us 50 quadrillion years to figure out how to even address HIV/AIDS, but all of a sudden we have in 18 months, in a year, we have a vaccine for COVID-19. And granted, it is a SARS derivative of some kind, so it's not like we're starting from scratch on what it is, but we kind of are. And the medical professional explained to me that unlike other vaccines, which teach your body how to develop antibodies towards something like this, what this vaccine does is it teaches your body how to identify those creepy looking little red prongs, it's so gross, that are on the outside of the virus, and to not hook up. The cells identify those things and they don't hook up to them. Because if the cells don't hook up to those little prongy, fingery, alien, gross looking things on the COVID virus, then it cannot create this literally, it's a crystal bridge made of crystalline proteins. It's a crystal bridge that transmits the virus to the cell. So rather than becoming immune to the virus, we're teaching the body how to reject the virus and not connect to the aspect of the virus that actually transmits the disease. Now, it is possible that that illness will figure out that its primary mechanism of communication is no longer working and try to come up with something else. But I think that would take some time. And I think in the meantime, it would just die out and nothing would happen with it. So do I see some issues with the vaccine? Yeah, but really, really minimal issues. There will be a segment of the population that has more long-term weirdness with it. And again, I think it has to do with the teaching process of teaching the body not to engage with that type of virus. But at the end of the day, this medical professional explained it quite well, in that we have a heck of a lot more thorough opportunities to vet our science in a much more technologically advanced way, a faster way, than we did when we were developing the polio vaccine. That took forever. So it's important to remember that, yes, this came out the pike pretty quickly, yet we also had the entire world working on it at one time. And that's really unprecedented. And so when you put all of humanity's greatest minds on something, Yeah, we come up with some pretty good stuff pretty quickly. There's a lot of us out there, almost 8 billion of us out there, to put our noodles together to bring something powerful in. So what I would tell you is that, if you want to get the vaccine, go for it. I'm just waiting because I'm not in a high risk group. And I do think they are going to find just a few little hinks and tinks, nothing that's going to shut down your kidneys or your heart or anything that extreme in most people. But I'm sure they're going to find little bitty things here and there that they can tweak because there's such a large grouping of people who receive this vaccine. And it's also really important to remember, gang, that and this angel is reminding me of this, that even though we have tried and true vaccines for measles and for polio and whatnot, once in a blue moon, a human being comes along that has a wildly adverse reaction to that vaccine, even though it's been in the vaccine pool for, 50, 80, 100 years. So, the fact that humans can have adverse reactions to vaccines is nothing new. And because we do have the vaccine, that's definitely going to cut down on the transmission rate of COVID-19. So again, kind of eyeball, June-ish, June to August-ish. But they're going to the Biden administration is going to lead out with a ton of prudence. And, we may even with the COVID issue in focus, I'm looking through this angel who walks with the world's lens here, we may even have another shutdown in January after the holiday season, just to see if we can get some of this spread under control. Now, I'm hoping we don't, yet our numbers are quite high in the United States. And again, I'm speaking about the United States of America. Every country is going to be different on this. Yet I see the Biden administration being not super happy with the amount of numbers and the fact that we have lost more people to COVID-19 than we did to World War II in America is pretty intense. We've lost more Americans to COVID than we have in World War II. And that's really sobering. So our presidential administration is going to come in and they are going to be doing something that is a little unprecedented. And again, they're on the fence about a shutdown in January. They're going to be checking the numbers, but just keep an eyeball for that. And it looks like it might be a couple of weeks to a month if they do that. That's what I'm seeing in the ethers here that they have planned. So I'd say there's maybe a 60% chance of that at this time. So don't live on it. We'll see what we can do with the vaccine and see if that, if people will actually stay home and social distance and continue to do that. We'll see what we can do to get through that. So the other portion that I'm seeing here as we go forward into 2019 and to 2020 and into 2021 is a big evolution in money. And you may recall from the 2019 into 2020 podcast talking about our money changing remarkably in 2020. Well, it has. A lot of people have gotten, a lot of small businesses have gotten loans and stimulus from the government. Many people have gotten stimulus checks. Not everybody. We still have people who haven't received those checks. When we go into 2020, it does look like the American government is going to have a more stabilized sustenance program because we are going to be suffering still financially from this for a while. So I do see some housing assists in 2021. I see some personal assists. Like you can call it a personal stimulus, but it looks like there's more money than $600 or $1,200 or whatever it was. So it does look like we are going to receive greater care packages as we try to clean all of this up. Also tax incentives. I'm looking at 2021 and I am seeing tax breaks and tax incentives for people because you can't really pay taxes if you have no money. That gets tough. So I'm seeing that the government is going to be trying to create all kinds of jobs as well as tax offsets, as well as stimulus. And I'm also seeing that because of this forward spring that we're looking at here, I'm seeing that there are going to be Americans who fear this, and they're going to be seeing it as a socialist move. And I'm looking at, the socialist structure of government. I'm looking at socialist mores, tax structures, whatnot. If you're a person out there that's worried that the United States is going to slide into socialism, that's not true. We are a capitalist country And the USA loves its money, so I'm not seeing that money going anywhere. We will help our people, however. We will help our people dramatically. And that doesn't mean we're socialist. I mean, if you look back to, my God, if you look back to the Great Depression, and afterwards, if you go hiking in Yellowstone Park, you're going to hike on trails that were put into place as a work program that the then president stuck out there to get people back to work and was literally paying people to build trails for our national parks. And so that wasn't socialism, that was providing opportunities and jobs. And so I do see some opportunities and jobs that will be created in a similar way through evolution in the government. And so don't worry that we're going socialist. It's a thing. We are going to get help, but I do see other jobs and opportunities that will be created. And a lot of these are interesting. They are green energy jobs. They are government-sponsored park jobs, just like when they built the trail system in the first place, coming out of the Depression to get people work. I mean, it's really actually kind of cool because when we come out of these slumps, we end up helping the country a great deal. And this United States Reclamation Project, that's just what I'm calling it. I don't know what they're going to call it. But this U.S. Reclamation Project, Economic Reclamation Project is what it feels like. That's going to go clear into 2022. So that's something that's going to get set up in 2021 and keep going. So it's not a socialism issue. The United States, when I look at the mechanics of why they're giving people money, it gets really interesting, you guys. They're giving people money not because they want to make people lazy so that people won't go to work. They're giving people money so that our entire economy doesn't fall in on itself. It's sort of a false positive, if that makes sense. Because what I'm seeing that they're doing is if they don't give people the money and people don't pay their bills and people don't go and buy these ridiculous large flat screen TVs, and I don't know if you paid attention, but in March and April when all these initial payments came out, then everybody was flooded with some pretty intense retail therapy. I remember being here in Billings, Montana, and watching large screen TVs just walk out of Costco because people knew that they were going to be in their house and they wanted bigger TVs to watch movies on. That's about the time Netflix stock just flew off the handle. So if we as a nation just stop buying stuff, I'm sure our landfills would be thrilled. However, economically across the planet, if we quit buying stuff here, we are avarice weirdos in the United States. We just buy and buy and buy and throw crap out and buy. We consume and consume and consume like a meth-soaked Pac-Man. I mean, we are avarice over here. And I think we'll probably be better coming out of COVID-19. However, if we stop buying, then a lot of other world economies tank. And a lot of businesses in America tank, which means banks tank that invest in those businesses. So I want you to, if you're somebody who fears socialism or fears that we're just making Americans fat and happy by handing them a check, what we're trying not to do is lose the value of IRA accounts out there. When I look, I'm no economist, gang. I'm looking through the eyeballs of this angel that walks with the world and trying to explain what I'm seeing. So I hope I'm doing a decent job here, not being an economist. Yet I would tell you that if we don't spend money, if we don't pay for stuff, everything goes guts up and we completely go to a depression. And then we've got to crawl out of that. Plus we're trillions of dollars in debt. And one of our biggest debtors is China. So if we get into a position where we are so in debt and we start collapsing in on ourselves, China can seize assets. That's just the rules, apparently. So again, if you're fearing that we're becoming socialist, we are not. We are just trying to keep the whole system from completely collapsing because it's super dysfunctional and it's built on rabid consumption. It's messed up. So anyway, keep your eyes open. If you've been out of a job for a long time, I'm so sorry. I know it's been tough. I think about my wife owns a fitness studio, gang. She owns Kinesi Wellness Studios here in Billings, Montana. And of course, you can just imagine how that's been for gyms. I mean, my God, she's got a pretty big space, yet she can only have just a handful of people in there, and they all have to be super spaced out. And the trainers are wearing masks, and you can barely have anybody there. People don't want to come anyway because it's really scary, even though everybody's, 20 feet apart from each other and a big garage door is open and there's fans everywhere. But still, it's hard for people. And so businesses are just closing. Their doors are just closing. So again, if you're somebody who's worried about socialism ensuing, just recognize that these stimulus payments are an attempt to keep capitalism alive. That's really what it's about. It's not necessarily pretty, but it's what I'm seeing. So that's that. And moving on to money, it's really interesting that our money, and this is part of our money system changing, is going to change because a lot of the money that we're going to be receiving is from the government, or it's padded stimulus from the government, or it's different incentives to different businesses to hire people. So our money is going to be slightly different. And you might be noticing that you're dealing with your money a little differently. You might be noticing that COVID has really taught you that you don't have to go out to eat every night, or you don't necessarily need the newest and the greatest this or that or whatever, because we've been home with family, or we've been home with friends, or some of us have been really struggling home alone. Yet, we're noticing that our budgets, if we're still able to work, are being stretched a lot further. And so when I look at this situation going forward, we still have a lot of money situations that are going to change. But a big part of what's going to change is how our money moves through the stock market. And I've been talking about this for a couple of years, but we are really going to see the execution of this modality that I'm about ready to get into in 2021. Now, if you've been following my financial crumbs that I've been dropping out there since really 2018, I've been talking about an increase in just making sure you have some, if you're a stock buyer, okay, and a lot of times you don't even need, you don't need to have a brokerage to be a stock person. You can download an app called Robinhood or Ameritrade. Robinhood's easier than Ameritrade. And get on there and just dink around, and find stocks you like, and transfers from your bank, and you buy the stock right there, and bada bing, bada boom, you're done. Just be aware that Robinhood does not have a beneficiary option, and Ameritrade does. But Ameritrade's a little more technical, okay? But you can do it. It's not that hard. The reason I'm telling you all of this is because we're going to have some doorway opportunities, especially if we shut down again. And again, we got about a 50-60% of that in January if our COVID numbers keep going with the new president in office. So we'd almost be all the way through January. So it would more be January into February where that shutdown would happen, if we have it. Yet if we do that, then the stock market is going to tank again, because that's what happened last time. And that's just what it does. Like, the stock market is a reactive measure. It's not a proactive measure. It's reactive. And as is any financial decision, gang, you gotta read up on stuff and study things and make informed decisions. Okay, just don't go do anything you want, but it's not going to help you out if you just get on Robinhood and just start arbitrarily buying things. However, if the stock market goes on sale, and that's what I like to call a decline in the market. If it goes on sale, okay, and you do have stocks, don't freak out. Just like shoes, if they go on sale, I'm not gnashing my teeth freaking out. I'm going, oh my God, the value of my shoes that I wanted plummeted. I'm going to go buy a lot of shoes is what I'm going to do. If it goes to 90% off, I am a shoe ho. I'm going to load up. So again, it's looking like there may be a shutdown, even a 2-week shutdown, whatever. If the market dips again, and again, it's really looking probable in the first part of 2021, then if you are a stock person, that's the time when the stocks go on sale to pick some up. And I've been talking about green energies and how the green energy sector is going to fly off the hook. And again, gang, keep in mind, this is financial advice coming through the ethers from angels. Okay, so just understand that. But I will also tell you that they've been pretty dead on about a lot of stuff. So I thought I'd pass this on to you. This is going to be a year, 2021 through 2024 is going to be huge on green energies. So as I look ahead in money and the money sector, what we're really going to see sucking wind is traditional oil companies. We started seeing that last year. But what I'm looking at here is, if you can find stock in some of these littler oil companies that focus on natural gas production, I'm looking at something in 2021. It looks like we're going to be compressing natural gas into canisters and selling it off to China on boats and getting it over there somehow. And so natural gas, of course, is not the greenest of all gases, but it's a heck of a lot better than oil, and it's way better than coal. And of course, it's not as pure as wind and solar, which we're going to see a massive uptick in as well. So if you can happen to find any stocks in, obviously, gang, please understand. Do your research, read up, all that good stuff. To me, that kind of goes without saying, okay? Yeah, what I am seeing is about maybe halfway through 2021, maybe a third of the way through, we're going to start hearing squawks about just some natural gas production. Now, it's not going to be a dominant energy force. And if we think back just from newspaper headlines, from that perspective, speaking of money, during the Obama administration, Obama talked about natural gas was going to be this thing, and it kind of went nowhere. Okay. Yet now we are looking for different ways to subsidize our economy and to keep the oil sector from falling on its keister because it's collapsing. It's just not doing well. There was a time when oil was your big stock to have, but now it's just, I'm seeing all over the world, it's limping along. People are driving less, especially during the pandemic. People aren't putting gas in their cars as much here in the United States. So if you think from that perspective, natural gas, it's not going to be a huge boomer, but it's going to be enough that if you're buying, shares for like $2 a piece, if those, say you buy 100 of those, okay, now it costs you $200. Let's just pretend you have $200 laying around that you don't know what to do with. And then in 6 months, maybe it's down, maybe it's up. Don't freak out, by the way, if you do the stock market, it moves all the time. Like some days you're up $100. The next afternoon you're down $50. It doesn't matter. It moves. But if that stock that you spent $2 on, a stock, jumps up to $15 a stock and you spent $200 on 100 shares, you now have $1,500. So you've made $1,300, okay? And that's a very basic example. However, we're looking at a little bit more of a push for just a little while, not a long time, maybe a couple years on the natural gas. And it looks like it's going to be coming in 2021 to about 2023. If you're an investment person, a lot of the money is shifting in the market again from big traditional tech like Facebook and all of that. They're still worth a lot in the stock market. What this angel's showing me is we're going to be shifting from that area over to, again, major green energies and components. And this is what I find fascinating. And I hope everybody hears this because I don't think being wealthy or having a lot of prosperity should only be reserved for a few people. I think if we all had zillions of dollars, then we could help out tons of other people and they could make zillions of dollars and nobody would be wanting for anything because we'd all have enough to share. It would be awesome. So when I look at this, I'm looking forward, and again, talking about money here, I am seeing a shift not only to obviously the wind segment, and net solar panels and all that good stuff. Yet what makes everything, okay? So I'm seeing they're going to be needing a lot more copper. And it kind of reminds me of the copper boom because I'm looking at, I can taste copper in my mouth as I'm talking about this, and I can feel the copper coming out of the earth. And I'm a tree hugger, so that makes me kind of sad. At the same time, there are economically, and there actually are out there, though this is almost an oxymoron to say, there are environmentally conscious mining companies that put the quality of the land and restoring it and the quality of the water and not just leaving pit mines everywhere. There are mining companies that actually care about that. So researching that would be really important. However, copper, just so you know, they're going to mine copper. Copper's going to be needed for all of these batteries because I'm seeing a massive uptick in electric cars. And this isn't just Tesla. I'm looking at Ford. I'm looking at Chevy. I'm looking at our everyday cars. Big uptake into electric cars. And of course, there's a lot of copper in those battery components. Also, things like lithium. Ingredients is what they're showing me. Lithium. Zinc. Zinc is another one they're showing me here. And I thought when they first showed me zinc for 2021, I'm such a dork, you guys. I don't know. I honestly thought that it was to do with taking zinc so that you don't get sick, right? Like taking some sort of a pill, a zinc pill. And I was like, okay, zinc, whatever. Actually, I was just reading, not even a week ago, about the new types of batteries. There's zinc oxide batteries, which are not new. But lithium batteries are what are typically in electric cars. And lithium batteries can explode and do all this weird stuff. Zinc oxide batteries apparently have a much longer charge for a longer time and aren't as flammable or explosive or something. And all of a sudden, the word zinc that I received, I'm like, oh, right. I bet you're talking about us not using as much lithium. So there's that. So if you can find, and I know this is a sensitive subject for many, yet I will phrase this in this way. The world is going to mine the dickens out of copper. I'm looking at that happen. So if we invested in the mining companies, and we meaning tree huggery people like me, that actually are crazy focused on the environment and returning as much as they can back. And obviously, if you poke a hole in the ground and tear everything out, that gets complicated. I get that, gang. Yet it costs those companies a hell of a lot more to be an environmentally conscious mining company than just the guys that are blowing holes in the ground and taking stuff out and polluting the water. And maybe if enough people invest in the environmentally conscious mining companies, then we can mitigate the damage of the earth done by this mad rush for copper. And it's weird. It reminds me of the 1800s, Butte, Montana. Butte, Montana has one of the biggest Superfund sites in the United States. And that Superfund site is the Berkeley Pit. And they took pretty much a 10,000 foot tall mountain and strip mined it completely flat, and then strip mined it 2 miles into the ground, taking all of the copper and silver, mostly copper, out of that mountain. So obviously you don't want to invest in that kind of mine, but they've got other mining companies that they don't do that. They just take the copper veins out and they put the tailings back into the mine shafts and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, for what that's worth, copper's going to be a huge thing because we're talking money here and where the money's going to flow and where it's going to go. And so, when we look forward, obviously 5G technologies, whatever, some of as I look into the money portion in the stock market, some of the other particulars that I'm seeing that are going to tank or just go down, some of our big social media platforms are really going to hit a wall in 2021. And it's because I think it's called The Social Experiment is a documentary out that's right now about the algorithms that I've talked about a ton on this podcast. But now there is a documentary out about how programmed we are through algorithms to see a world that we design ourselves according to our search habits. And then we think that is the world. So it's pretty messed up. But there's going to be less heavy investment, and there will be migrations away from some very large platforms. Facebook is one of them. I'm seeing Facebook really struggling towards the end of 2021. It's still going to be around, but if you're somebody that does most of your work on Facebook, you might consider, I know Facebook owns Instagram, yet you may consider, figuring out a different way to get your message out there because it's going to be really crowded with weird stuff. So the Facebook stock's going to go down. And another thing, as they're showing me money, obviously, if you were an investor in any of these pharma companies that created the vaccine, you'd be rolling in it right now. Yet, again, a heavy, heavy emphasis on plant medicines in 2021. And there are a lot of psychedelics and psychedelic medicines that you can get stocks for, but they're penny stocks. Like you might buy them for 70 cents a share right now because they're still developing the psychedelics, which in about 5 years, actually a little less than that, this angel's showing me about 3 to 5, are really going to take off. And I believe this year in the United States, I'm catching in the wind a legalization for medical marijuana. So that's going to blow open all kinds of medical marijuana opportunities for growers here and CBD growers in the United States. And a lot of folks in Canada right now, there are the CBD or medical marijuana stock. And so they're there, but that's going to blow open. Psychedelics are going to blow open. You can find those stocks. Apparently there's different, if we're talking money, there are different trading markets. Like there's the New York Stock Exchange, and you'll see that in magazines as NYSE. And then you've heard of NASDAQ and the Dow. And there's another one that's called OCTBB, and you find a lot of penny stocks there. But those are a way to get in on very cutting edge technology or green technology as it's getting its footing going out into the world. And so psychedelics over the next couple of years are going to do extremely well because they'll be able to quantify through medical study the effects that psychedelic augmentation has on trauma and all kinds of really cool stuff. So if you're somebody who likes to noodle in stocks or you've ever thought about it, when the stock market goes on sale again, that's a good time to just, take maybe $100 and just have some fun with penny stocks or something, if you have it. But I guarantee you, if you leave it in there and don't freak out when it dips down, because it always dips down, then you're going to make a lot of money in a couple of years, And I mean, I literally could just do a podcast on finances, but we're talking about the whole big picture here. So finances are part of it, okay? But that just gives you sort of a really brief overview of what to look forward to. And if you are a company or you've ever thought of starting a startup company, back in 2016, I started an alternative energy company with 2 really good friends of mine because I was looking ahead and I was looking at Hillary Clinton becoming president, and I was looking at the green energy bills that she was going to offer, especially for women-owned green energy companies. We're talking bills that would initiate investment in these particular companies. And here's a little known trivia fact. I love science. I love physics, right? I mean, I really do. And I sit around trying to figure out different ways to create alternative power and how we can bridge current power and save power and draw it out of the atmosphere. And it's just something I really enjoy. And these 2 gentlemen, Paul and Patrick, that I formed this LLC with, it's called Crossfade Energy. So I was going to apply as a female-owned company, and Patrick is brilliant, and Paul is brilliant. And Paul had worked in the oil segment with actually greening up water that they extract out of oil wells that they've used for fracking and cleaning it up so when you put it back into the ground, it's not all full of gross toxins. And my friend Patrick is a brilliant engineer. So I thought, well, God, we can do something really cool here, right? Well, then Hillary didn't get in. None of the green energy bills came to fruition, blah. But now I'm seeing those coming back around. So if you're somebody who ever had a dream of a startup of some sort of green energy company, and especially if you're female owned, or if you're African American owned, Native American owned, there is going to be a ton of money in this segment coming available for startups. So even if it's just an idea that you're working on, I mean, you don't have to have a factory. This isn't 1869. Just trying to figure out this stuff and working at that capacity would be excellent. So these are just a few. Like I said, I could do a series on how money is changing and all of these things, but not everybody's interested in money. I think money is interesting because it is a reflection of our intention. The stock market, I watch it every day. I just think it's fun. I watch it because it is in response to something else. And the fact of the matter is, if you feel energies, you can also feel the surge coming that's going to create the demand, which is what I do quite often. So I can feel that surge coming in. Also, this angel's just showing me this surge coming in with psychedelics in the next couple of years. This obviously making medical cannabis legalized in the United States. I'm looking at all this happening, and I'm looking at all of this stock just taking off and going crazy. And so I think to myself, if we're looking at a changing world, which we are, with our energy, with our medicines, there's a lot of companies like GE, General Electric, is going to be leaning heavily into some really crazy green energy stuff. There's going to be companies like Bombardier. I think that's how you say it. Or is it Bombardier? They make airplanes. They're in Canada. And they've had a lot of economic problems because they had a CEO who was doing some sketchy stuff. And Canada's bailed them out a bunch of times and whatever. And I think their stock is like 38 cents a share. And if you've ever flown Alaska Airlines, you've flown a Bombardier plane. If you've ever flown a commuter little plane, on United Airlines and zipped from Montana to Denver, you've flown on a Bombardier. And so that company, a lot of people are saying, oh, bankrupt. And I'm looking at it going, actually, I think they may restructure, but I think in 5 years, they're pulling it together with a light rail system and doing all kinds of stuff. So, like I said, if you have $25 and want to buy some 38-cent stock in a company that everybody is swearing is going to go bankrupt, but I'm just not seeing it, then, Bombardier, there you go. But again, you gotta leave it in there, gang. We're talking about new money, and the new money is going to grow. The old world was make a buck fast. The new world money energy is plant it and let it grow. Okay? And just leave it in there and let it do its thing, like an old oak tree. It takes a while to get there. So that's a very brief money overview, basically. And we do have all kinds of apps that will help the average person with this stuff, like Robinhood or Acorns or anything where you can just throw money. And no, I am not sponsored by any of those, you guys. I use them. I use Robinhood. I use Acorns. But I'm not sponsored by any of them. They're easy to use. So if you're interested, there you go. Another piece of the puzzle here is our sociology in the United States. And, one of the things that I see here is that we are going to have a pretty long range standoff of what used to be called like the MAGA folks, okay? That Americana supporter of the more conservative modality that fueled the Trump rise. Those human beings are going to be very concerned about a turn away from oil. Those human beings are going to be very concerned about all this stimulus money flooding in to support the capitalist economy. Those folks are going to see what I'm talking about from a very different perspective. And so there are many people who will rise up. They're not doing it yet because they're kind of waiting to see if Donald Trump is going to issue some sort of fight thing, which I do not see happening. In fact, I don't even know that poor man, God. I don't even know if he's going to be in the country when Biden is sworn in. I mean, I would hope he would be. Yet I've been seeing our president as a flight risk for quite a while because he's got a lot of people stumping for him. The state of New York wants to hang him up for tax evasion. And I mean, there's a lot going on. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he just kind of slipped out and went somewhere. He kind of writes his own rules, so that wouldn't be surprising. That being said, as these folks who believe that the United States is going down into a flaming ball of hell in a handbasket that's on fire, then we are going to see a little of that militia movement. We are going to see people banding together in one last-ditch attempt, especially, and I've only got about 3 timelines out of 7 right now that have Trump taken off, just because he's scared to get prosecuted and bringing his family with him. And there would be an excuse that he would issue there, like and it would be absurd. Like, and he wouldn't come right out and say, my life is threatened by the cabal, yet he would heavily allude. You know how it's dog whistle stuff, right? He speaks between words and it's like code to people, and you need the little Orphan Annie doomsday decoder ring to really get it. So I do see opportunities there. People are looking for the dog whistle to come forward in these militias. And now that Biden's there has been a deflation in that rage energy, and especially since the president has not been tweeting as much, he has not been communicating as much, yet those folks are just out there waiting for their signal. It does look like we're going to have just a few little toss-ups here and there with a few things, and it'll calm down, because what folks are going to recognize is that, and this is what's broken my heart from day one, to all of those folks who have truly believed that Trump had their interest at heart. You know, he's a business guy. He's going to do what he needs to do to make a buck. That's what he does. That's who he's always been. He's a real estate guy. And it just makes me sad that, you know, many folks are going to feel a bit betrayed when he doesn't call them to war and call them to action. I mean, and he'll make his dog whistle accounts. I am seeing a few things here in the ethers that are kind of like, make sure you rise up and protect your country from this socialism and whatever. And he's going to keep croaking from the wings too. After he's not president anymore, he's still going to keep croaking and stirring the pot. Yet the media, because we're talking about sociology here, the media really made Donald Trump. They made him in 2016. They got him elected, and they realized that. So they may sort of cover some of his stuff, yet the mainstream media is not going to be that interested in covering everything he's doing, because they saw the monster that created. And so he's going to be relegated to more news magazine or news blog sites like Newsmax and these other extreme, what could be called right-wing outlets. The left has them too. There's a lot of them way out there on the left. So what's fascinating here is I look at this outlay of really it's a way that people can band together in common purpose. So we will see a little malicious stuff, but it's not going to persist and persist and persist. Now what's going to happen is the militia groups, as I look forward, I see them becoming more like, kind of like the Hells Angels, like these national organizations that people can join, and they have meetings and they patrol their neighborhoods and they kind of do their own cosplay thing, yet it's not as pronounced. And I'm just not seeing the big civil war. I never was seeing the big civil war. I do see some uprisings and unrest, just from the perspective that these folks really feel like they were called to purpose, to a big purpose. And they are waiting. Honestly, it really breaks my heart, you guys. They're waiting for their commander-in-chief, to give them the word to revolt and take back America. And it breaks my heart, because that's not going to come. Not in the way they think it is. And it might come from, I don't know, Slovenia or Moscow or somewhere else. So, we do have a little of that upheaval. If you have friends or family members that hold a differing viewpoint than you do politically, 2021 is not the time frame to battle it out. We got bigger fish to fry. We have a changing money system. We have a changing investment system. We are really going to be working towards equality and equity. We're going to be working towards putting social justice. Social justice issues are going to come way to the forefront in 2021. I'm looking at Native American issues are going to be huge, which thank God. I live in a state where our, quote, minority are Native American people. And they are... it's hideous how these Native communities are treated here. I mean, I can't even say, there's a prejudice, but the prejudice is so bad, they're just invisible. It's heinous. It's heinous. So putting equal attention to those who have suffered is going to be a big 2021 deal. 2021, as this angel is showing me, this is not the time, people, to play the oppression Olympics, okay? So if you want to martyr yourself and say your side is better than another side, we've had 4 years of that. It didn't work. It sucked. It's not going to be supported. It's just not going to be. If somebody wants to fight with you about your political belief, you can fight with them, but it's not going to be supported by 2021's energy. It's just going to fall flat and go nowhere. You guys are going to end up talking in a week anyway and probably going out for a pizza and some beer. So just don't go there. Use your energy instead, this angel is talking about, to really reach deep and figure out what innovations you can bring to the world. How can you make your community better? How can you help people offset their power bills? So here's some spikes in money that I'm seeing that are going to be a little rough. I'm looking at electricity in its old format, being generated through dams and whatever, that the old formats of electricity, that gets very expensive. And I don't know if you know this, but up to 40% of the electricity that's generated, say at Hoover Dam, and then shot across the desert to go to Los Angeles, 40% of that power that is generated through turbines that are collecting all of that water pressure by damming up this gorgeous natural canyon, 40% of it is lost into the atmosphere through friction in the frickin' wires. I mean, have you ever wandered beneath big, heavy electrical wires? And you can hear them humming and you can hear them popping. And that is literally all kinds of freaking electricity being released into the atmosphere. That's a lot of EMF poisoning, really. It's a lot of, not poisoning, but pollution. I said poisoning, and this angel kind of looked at me, and if it had an eyebrow, it would have cocked its eyebrow up like, what, like soap poisoning? It was soap poisoning. Yeah, raise your hand if you just watched A Christmas Story right here. So as we move forward, we are going to be evaluating how we spend our money. And power, electricity is going to be a hugie. And, there's anytime we try to create electricity, there's always something that is suffering. Solar panels create a lot of heat that affects birds and just drops them out of the sky for big solar fields. It refracts tons of heat. Big wind turbines, my God, eventually the birds figure out how not to go through there, but that can get a little tragic once in a while. And then when the wind turbines, it's time for them to take them down, a lot of times they bury them. Sometimes they take them out, but a lot of times they bury them. It's cheaper to bury them. So, there's just a lot. There's a lot to alternative power, and I get it. And nothing is a perfect solution, but we're trying. So if we can figure out ways in your community to use your brilliance, offset people's bills, help out, think in a communal way in 2021, okay? That is not being a socialist or a communist. That is being a person who gives a crap about other people and how to care about your community and how to apply yourself productively in that community. So skipping forward to weather, yes, of course, I don't think it takes a psychic to tell you weather's going to be crazy. We're having an unseasonably hot winter for Montana. It was 50 degrees on Christmas, no snow up here. That's ridiculous. It's warm up here. I am seeing that we have a winter season that's being pushed more into late January, February, March. And really a lot of rain this year. Weird, wet, super floods everywhere. And really low to the ground, high charged electrical storms that are quite dangerous. So we're going to be watching our electrical content in the air just go crazy. It's going to be heavy duty. So watch the electrical storms this year. We are going to have a change in their punch and power. And it's not like the storms when I was a kid, when you'd go outside and watch them and your mom's yelling at you, "Get in here, you're going to be struck by lightning. You'll shoot your eye out, kid." You might actually in 2021. So just be wary of that. I'm seeing just multiple late season tornadoes that are tearing up the Midwest and odd things. Tornadoes in Florida this year. 2021 is going to be bringing tornadoes in Florida. That's super weird. Water spouts that hop onto the ground and just keep cutting. Usually they don't do that. So, and water, and strange, big high humidity zones where the pressure changes extremely. I'm looking at tornadoes in Los Angeles as well. Just weird weather this year. And I believe next year, as we go into 2022, that looks like some heavy duty, very big snows. We are going to still get some snows. And of course, the central part of the United States and the eastern part of the United States currently still in 2020 have been receiving big snow. But we're going to get weird unseasonal snow. And towards the end of the year in 2021, big snow, big, creepy, giant snow. So again, if you can scale down your footprint, if you can figure out how to heat your home and cool your home in ways, especially cool your home. This summer is going to be a scorcher. That's going to be helpful if you can figure out alternative ways to do that. If you can invent those ways, that's great. Get those grants that are going to be coming from the government to figure that stuff out. And more than anything, 2021, in the year of birth, is about you being courageous to bring exactly who you are to the world. I mean, hardcore to the world. And for you to be seen for all of your gifts and talents. And this is going to be a truth teller year. It's going to be important that you let people know that you can't do something, that you might not be the Superman, that you may not be the type A that you thought you were. COVID changed us. And I look at our genes, our gene pool. Whenever we ingest an illness or we ingest anything into our DNA, it changes our genes. And really, if you look at, wherever this came from, a bat or whatever, some animal that COVID came from, getting sick with this transposed a lot of that. And I'm being very general here, so this is not literal, but there were imprints from that animal DNA that was passed on to us. And during that time frame, a lot of people decided they didn't want to go back to the rat race. They didn't want to go back to that lifestyle, and we're not going to go back. We're going to focus on helping one another. And you're going to focus on your miracle capacity because you're a miracle machine. And the old world wanted to make sure you had no freaking idea how to access your superpowers. They wanted to keep you buying crap and believing you were not enough. They wanted to convince you that only rich people make money in the stock market. They wanted to keep an entire world suppressed to make a small group of people feel important about themselves. And 2021, gang, is all about the year of birth. And as I was saying in part 1 of this podcast, the great spiritual master, Jesus, talked about the fact that, you got to be reborn. Now, what does that mean? And I don't mean you have to be reborn as a Christian or accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. I'm simply saying you got to birth your whole self into the world. And that may mean making some of your friends and family a little uncomfortable because your shine is so magnificent that they don't know what the hell to do with you. That may mean a few of your friends may stop calling because you've gone from being the support system for your continually whiny friend to all of a sudden being the person out there who's shining brightly and inviting people into your success mechanism. And maybe the whiny friend no longer has a place for you because you're not just going, oh yeah, I know, you poor baby. Oh, I know. Misery is not going to love company in 2021. Brilliance, ingenuity, genius is going to love collaboration in 2021. You are a genius, okay? I don't care who you are listening right now. Creation did not make you to just go punch a clock and come home and, gain 2 pant sizes like I did through this COVID experience and just sit there and watch Netflix all day. We all do that once in a while to decompress. Yet you have a purpose. And 2021 is all about your purpose. And it's about being freaking fearless and birthing yourself into the world. It's interesting. If you look at the Christian Bible, the terminology, and again, a lot of the terminology is mistranslated from the original High Greek that those manuscripts were translated from to serve a political agenda of whatever king at the time. That the spirit master teacher Jesus, there's been many. There's Muhammad and there's the Buddhas, and it goes on and on. And this particular spirit master was talking about being born again to be able to access, and I'm paraphrasing into a 21st century way of understanding a 20th century concept. How about birthing all of yourself into the world, the good, bad, the ugly, making friends with your shadow self, getting out there? Because according to this master teacher, who really was a human being walking around doing miraculous things and telling everybody they could do it too if they just believed they could use the same quantum field, they could use the same spiritual physics. This idea of birthing the whole self into the world, according to that particular master teacher of Jesus, is what connects you ultimately with the quantum field to allow miracles to flow through you. And it is letting go of the old fears and letting go of the old identities and letting go of the old limiting factors that once slowed you down and just stopped everything dead. That's really the deal. So to birth yourself into the world is the most important part of 2021. And it's not what you think it is. Being born again, it's not what you think it is. It's trusting that the universe, that how Spirit Creator made you, trusting that what you have inside of you is just right for this time frame, and to not hide the most magnificent parts of you. Come on, be honest. How many of you out there hide the fact that you have a huge intuitive gift? A majority of us do. How many of you out there hide your intelligence? Especially women. Women, how many of us hide our intelligence because we want that particular male to like us and we want to make them feel powerful, so we hide our intelligence? Come on. Fellas, how many of you guys hide your hearts? How many of you guys hide this giant empathic heart that knows how to fix things but wants to weep for the world because you fear you will be persecuted for it? Gang, we have to bring our full Monty forward. If you feel inside of you something around in your energy field feels like your hands tingle and you're like, you know what? I know if I just put all the love in my body into the body of this person who's struggling with lupus or cancer, I know that I could resonate their cells and help them. But then we're too afraid to say that because we don't want to sound like a crazy ass who's leading people to a false expectation of healing. Yeah, what if you're not the whole answer, but you're a dang big part of it? If you just would have the courage to put your hands on somebody and say, you know, I don't even understand how this works, but I think I'm supposed to do this, and I love you. So here, have the courage. Have the courage to write your book. Have the courage to love fiercely. Have the courage to cry in public. Have the courage to say you're wrong. I screwed up. I was petty. I didn't believe in myself and I did something terrible and I need to say it. Or maybe you don't say it, but you just change your opinion or you change your modality. Have the courage to birth yourself out there. Have the grit it takes to push a whole new human through this little bitty dime-sized hole here that is your insecurity. Birth it through, bear down, push it out. Bring yourself fully to the world. Because we will be helping each other do this exponentially until the light of love floods this planet, and that is what affects our quantum field and radiates us to the point where we can truly create this miracle place that we want to live. That's the world we want to pass to our kids. That's science, that's physics, that's a quantum field augmentation right there. And it starts with you. It starts with you not hiding yourself. It starts with you being honest about the magnificence that exists within you, and do not kick it out with that shame-based programming from the old world that was designed to keep you muzzled. Let it out. You are a divine gift. You are why we are all here. And I am here for you. And together we are going to birth 2021 and reposition ourselves for the next. We're not in the ascension cycle anymore. We have 9 years. 9 years of the creation cycle. Okay? This is year 1 of the creation cycle. That's what we're here for. You have gifts and talents that you didn't even know existed in you. You are here on this earth for a reason. You are here for divine inspiration. You have brilliance in you. I know you know this. You have brilliance in you that you've been shutting down for years because you've been afraid to be judged on it. I can see that in you. Come on, man. Bring what you are to the world. Because it's time that we do not fear our greatest contributions. It's time we do not fear coming forward with this resonance that's going to hit the quantum field, and that is the vibration that changes the world. You are so powerful. You are so powerful. And you are not created not to have a purpose. 2021 is where we give away our excuses, and we have the courage to bring the fullness of who we are forward. So let's do it. You want to try the stock market? Go for it if you have an extra $5. If you want to quit your job and get into a van and go to Central America and dig ditches and feed the homeless, do it. Follow that magnetic north that divine spark put inside of you. 2021 is the year of birth. You can't stop a baby from coming. Once it's coming down the pike, it's coming down the pike. We are all in the process of emergence. So emerge, confident, powerful, kind. Emerge kind. Lead with your brilliance and your willingness to co-create. When your little bitty baby self gets triggered on the inside, just be kind with yourself in telling yourself that you've got to teach yourself how to trust other people again. 2021's year of birth is amazing. Get out there and write your books and start your companies. Get out there and have your kids if you wanted to have them. Adopt a kid if you wanted to. COVID taught us what is important. And over 300,000 of us in the United States did not make it into 2021 in the physical form. Over 300,000 of us died, and that number just racks up every day. If you are here, your soul chose to be here. If you are here, utilize and maximize the time that you have. And I'm not suggesting everybody who perished from COVID chose to go. I am telling you, be grateful for the life that you have. Be grateful. And shine. Have the courage to show yourself. I'll do it too. Be courageous. Bear down. Deliver that best you to this world. Be unapologetic in your miracle potential and in the miracles that you bring in. And let's change this sucker together. I will see you next podcast.